The fluorescent lights in Terminal C buzzed like trapped insects. Officer Dawson's hand clamped around the woman's wrist, his fingers digging into her skin. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. That made him angrier. I said, "Move." His voice carried across the polished tile floor. Passengers stopped mid-stride. A child clutched her mother's leg. Phones lifted, recording red lights blinking in the artificial dawn of the terminal. The woman wore an emerald green blazer that caught the light, tailored and expensive. Her leather briefcase lay abandoned near the check-in counter. "You're hurting me," she said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. Dawson yanked harder. The blazer's shoulder seam tore with a soft rip that somehow echoed. She stumbled forward, her heels scraping against tile. Other officers stood in a loose circle, arms crossed, watching. One smiled. Another looked away. "Please listen to me." The woman tried to plant her feet, should have thought about that before. Dawson's grip shifted to her upper arm. A businessman in a grey suit walked past, pulling his carry-on, eyes forward. A family detoured around the scene without breaking conversation. The terminal's ecosystem adjusted around the disruption, like water flowing past a stone. The woman's eyes swept the crowd. She wasn't looking for help. She was memorizing faces. Dawson dragged her toward the security office. Her knees hit the floor once, twice. The sound of skin on tile was softer than it should have been. When she looked up, blood traced a thin line down her temple. "Sir, there's been a mistake." Her words remained steady. "No mistake," Dawson said. "I know exactly what I'm doing." Above them, a departure board flickered. Flight SK-1847 to Atlanta. Delayed. The red text blinked like a warning no one read. 24 hours earlier, Amara Bennett stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse office. The city stretched below, a grid of lights and possibility. Behind her, 3 monitors displayed real-time data from every Skybridge Airlines hub across the country. She'd built this. Every route, every protocol, every employee who wore the royal blue uniform with the silver wings. "Coffee, Miss Bennett." Her assistant, Marcus, appeared in the doorway. "I'm good, thank you." Amara turned from the window. "Did you book the flight under my personal name?" Marcus nodded. "Economy. Middle seat. You're sure about this?" "I want to see what our passengers see," she smiled. "Can't improve what you don't experience. 15 years of growth. From 3 planes to a fleet of 200. From regional carrier to national powerhouse. Skybridge had become synonymous with reliability and dignity. At least that's what the branding promised. Amara's mother had cleaned airport terminals during the night shift. She'd watched planes take off from behind glass, scrubbing fingerprints left by travelers who never looked at her. When Amara became a flight attendant at 19, her mother cried with pride. When Amara bought her first plane at 30, her mother stood on the tarmac and touched the wing like it was a miracle. "You'll change things," her mother had said, "not just for you. For everyone." That promise lived in every decision Amara made, every policy she wrote, every person she hired. She packed light for tomorrow's trip. 1 carry-on, no assistant, no security detail. Just Amara Bennett, anonymous passenger, flying home to surprise the Atlanta ground crew with a performance bonus announcement. Her phone buzzed. The board meeting agenda for next week. Expansion talks. Potential merger discussions. The business of running an empire. But tomorrow she'd just be a woman on a plane. She had no idea what was waiting in Terminal C. The city lights blinked below. Somewhere in that grid, Officer Dawson finished his shift and went home. He didn't think about the woman he'd stopped last week, or the month before. They blurred together in his mind, a parade of faces he'd deemed suspicious without knowing their names. Tomorrow he'd remember one. The check-in counter gleamed under morning light. Amara approached with her carry-on, her emerald green blazer crisp despite the early hour. The line moved steadily. Business travelers, families, a group of college students wearing matching hoodies. Officer Dawson stood near the security checkpoint, arms crossed. His eyes tracked movement like a predator assessing prey. "Next," the agent called. Amara stepped forward. She handed over her ID and boarding pass. The agent scanned them, then paused. Her smile flickered. "Is there a problem?" Amara asked. "One moment." The agent's fingers flew across the keyboard. Dawson moved closer. His boots made deliberate sounds against the floor. He stopped behind Amara, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with coffee. "Step aside." "Ma'am?" His voice wasn't a request. "I'm just checking in." Amara kept her tone level. I said, "Step aside." Dawson positioned himself between Amara and the counter. The agent looked down at her screen. Around them, other passengers moved through their lines without interruption. A white woman in a business suit sailed past security with a smile. A family with 4 children and twice as many bags checked in at the next counter without question. "Sir, my flight boards in 40 minutes. Amara held up her phone showing her boarding pass. "Doesn't matter if you're not getting on it." Dawson took her ID from the agent's hand. "On what grounds?" Amara's voice remained calm, but her pulse hammered. Suspicious behavior. He examined her driver's license like it was counterfeit. "I'm standing in line." She gestured to the queue behind her. "Like everyone else. You match a description." Dawson pocketed her ID. "What description?" He smiled then. Not with warmth, with certainty. "Someone who doesn't belong in first class." The words hung in the air. The agent stared at her keyboard. Behind Amara, passengers shifted uncomfortably. One man pulled out his phone. "I'd like to speak to your supervisor," Amara said quietly. "You'll speak to whoever I say you speak to." Dawson gripped her elbow. "Security office, now. You have no legal right." "I have every right." His fingers tightened. "You're making a scene." She wasn't. She was standing still, speaking softly, asking reasonable questions. But to Dawson, her existence in this space was the scene. Her emerald blazer, her leather briefcase, her expectation of dignity, all of it was wrong in his eyes. He pulled her away from the counter. Her boarding pass fluttered to the ground. Another passenger stepped on it, grinding it beneath their heel. Above them, the security cameras recorded everything. Dawson didn't know those cameras belonged to Amara's Airline. He didn't know the algorithms she'd personally approved flagged incidents like this. He only knew what he'd decided the moment he saw her face. The security office walls pressed close. Grey paint, metal desk, 2 chairs bolted to the floor. Amara sat with her hands folded in her lap, her torn blazer hanging off one shoulder. Breathe, count, reset. Her mother's voice echoed through the years. "They'll test you, baby. Every room you enter, every table you sit at. Your dignity is yours. They can't take it unless you give it." But what was dignity worth when your face hit the floor? Dawson stood by the door, arms crossed, satisfaction radiating from his posture. He'd won something in his mind. Stopped a threat, maintained order. The narrative he'd built required a villain, and he'd cast her perfectly. Amara's temple throbbed where she'd struck the check-in counter corner. She touched it gently. Her fingers came away with blood. Not much, enough. She thought about her mother scrubbing these floors at 3 in the morning. Invisible, essential, ignored. Her mother had believed the world would change, that her daughter's success would prove something fundamental about worth and capability. But here was Amara, 2 decades later, bleeding in an airport security office. Some things never changed. They just wore different uniforms. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Dawson had missed it during the confrontation. She didn't reach for it. Not yet. The cameras in this room, her cameras, were recording. The algorithm was flagging. Somewhere in a control center, alerts were pinging, but none of that helped her now. She closed her eyes and saw the terminal, the passengers who walked past, the ones who filmed, the child who asked why they were hurting her. All of them witnesses to a moment that happened 1,000 times a day, in 1,000 different places. She was just the one who could do something about it, if she survived it first. Comfortable. Dawson's voice dripped with mock concern. Amara opened her eyes, looked at him directly. No? Good. He checked his watch. Supervisor will be here soon. I'm looking forward to it, she said quietly. She meant every word. 15 years ago, Amara had worn a different uniform, polyester, uncomfortable shoes, a smile that ached by hour 3. She'd served drinks at 30,000 feet while studying for her MBA in the jump seat between service rounds. Her mother worked nights cleaning terminals. They'd meet for 20 minutes during shift changes, sharing coffee in the employee break room. That's where Amara learned the truth about airports. Watch how they look at me, her mother had said once, or how they don't. Invisible hands cleaned the toilets. Invisible hands emptied the trash. Invisible hands made everything pristine for travelers who never thought about who made their comfort possible. I'm going to change that, Amara had promised. Her mother had smiled. I know you will, baby. The MBA led to a job in airline operations. The operations job revealed the industry's inefficiencies. Amara saw opportunities everyone else missed. Underserved routes, forgotten communities, employees treated like line items instead of assets. She'd pitched her vision to investors for 2 years. 53 rejections. The 54th yes came from a venture capitalist who'd grown up poor and recognized hunger when he saw it. Skybridge Airlines launched with 3 used planes and a crew of 20. Amara's promise was simple. Dignity for everyone, passengers, employees, communities. She paid her flight attendants 20% above industry standard. She routed planes to small cities abandoned by bigger carriers. She implemented bias training before it was trendy, profit sharing before it was expected. Her mother lived to see the 100th plane christened. She stood on the tarmac, tears streaming, hands pressed to the fuselage. You didn't just build an airline, she'd whispered. You built proof. 6 months later, her mother died. Heart failure, quick and quiet. Amara scattered her ashes over the Atlanta hub where she'd worked for 30 years. This is for you, Amara had said to the wind. Every policy she wrote, every employee she hired, every route she opened, all of it traced back to a woman who cleaned floors and believed her daughter would fly. Now Amara sat in a security office, pleading, because someone looked at her and saw only what they wanted to see. Her mother would tell her to stay strong, to let them reveal themselves. To document everything, Amara's hand moved to her phone. Still there, still recording. She'd learned her lessons well. The desk held scattered papers, incident reports, protocol manuals. Amara's eyes tracked across them, while Dawson scrolled through his phone, bored with his own power play. One manual's cover caught her attention. Royal blue with silver lettering. Skybridge Airline Security Protocol and Anti-Bias Guidelines 2024 edition. Her signature was printed on the inside cover. She'd signed 5,000 copies herself, personally, because she wanted every security contractor to know leadership was watching. Page 1 stated clearly, racial profiling is prohibited. Any security decision must be based on observable behavior, not appearance, ethnicity, or assumptions. The manual sat 6 inches from Dawson's elbow, untouched, unread, probably never opened. Amara's jaw tightened. She'd spent months crafting those policies with civil rights lawyers and advocacy groups. She'd fought her own board, members who called it unnecessary liability, exposure. She'd won because she refused to run an airline that treated people like Dawson treated her, and here was proof it didn't matter. You could write policies, train staff, implement oversight, but if the people enforcing the rules never believed in them, the words meant nothing. Her phone buzzed again. Longer this time. Multiple messages. She risked a glance. The screen showed a cascade of texts from Marcus. Where are you? Board meeting starts in 10. CEO office is calling. Should I send security to find you? The irony burned. She was surrounded by security. That was the problem. Dawson's phone rang. He answered immediately. Yeah, no, I got her contained. Matches the description. Definitely suspicious. He laughed at something. Yeah, you know the type. Amara's hands clenched in her lap. Not from anger. From focus. Every word he spoke was evidence. Every assumption he made was documentation. The cameras above her cameras recorded it all. She thought about the passengers who'd walked past, the agents who'd looked away. The system designed to protect people that somehow always seemed to protect the wrong ones. But she also thought about the algorithm she'd implemented. The one that flagged incidents exactly like this. The one that sent alerts to executives and legal teams when certain keywords appeared in security reports. Keywords like suspicious without supporting evidence. Like matches description without actual descriptions. Like contained when no crime had occurred. Somewhere in Skybridge headquarters, alarms were ringing. Dawson just didn't know it yet. The door opened. A supervisor entered, clipboard in hand, expression already set to bureaucratic indifference. Let's sort this out, he said, not looking at Amara. She straightened her torn blazer and met his eyes. Yes, let's. The supervisor's name tag read Mitchell. He was older than Dawson, grayer with eyes that had seen too many incidents and stopped caring about the details. He glanced at Amara's ID, still in Dawson's hand. Ms. Bennett. He said her name like it tasted wrong. Officer Dawson says you were behaving suspiciously. I was checking in for my flight. Amara kept her voice level. I'd like to know what behavior he found suspicious. Mitchell looked at Dawson. Some silent communication passed between them. Brotherhood understanding, the ranks closing. You matched a description, Mitchell said. What description? I'm not at liberty to disclose active security intelligence. The words were polished, rehearsed, meaningless. Amara recognized bureaucratic deflection when she heard it. She'd fought it in every boardroom, every negotiation, every attempt to dismiss her authority. I'd like to file a complaint, she said. Mitchell sighed. You can file one online. After your interaction here is complete, I'd like to speak to airport management. That won't be necessary. He made a note on his clipboard. We're handling this internally. For a moment, just a moment, Amara felt hope flicker. Mitchell's tone had softened slightly. He was going through motions, but motions meant process. Process meant systems. Systems could be worked. If you just answer a few questions, we can resolve this quickly. Mitchell pulled out a chair. Amara sat. Her temples still throbbed. The blood had dried in a thin line down her cheek. Neither man offered her anything to clean it. Where were you flying to? Mitchell asked. Atlanta. Purpose of travel? Business. What kind of business? Amara paused. This was the moment. She could reveal who she was. CEO of Skybridge Airlines, owner of this terminal, these planes, these security contracts, the woman whose signature sat on the unread manual 6 inches away. But something stopped her. Some instinct honed through years of being underestimated. She wanted to see how far they'd go. Aviation consulting, she said. Not a lie. Just incomplete. Mitchell wrote it down. Dawson shifted by the door, arms still crossed, victory still radiating from his posture. Do you have any weapons? Prohibited items? No. Have you been in contact with any suspicious individuals? Define suspicious. Mitchell's pen paused. It's a yes or no question. Then no, he made another note. The process continued. Questions designed to justify the stop. To create paperwork that would make this interaction look legitimate, professional, necessary. Amara answered each one, calm, precise, giving them nothing to grab onto. Outside, the terminal hummed. Planes departed. Passengers boarded. Life continued while she sat in this grey room, bleeding from a wound no one acknowledged. Mitchell closed his clipboard. We'll need to search your bag. Do you have probable cause? Amara asked quietly. We have reasonable suspicion. Mitchell's voice hardened. Which is all we need. The hope flickered and died. They weren't going to let her go. They were going to escalate, document, justify. the system protecting itself from the uncomfortable truth that they'd made a mistake. Amara thought about her mother, about 15 years of building something better, about policies and training, an oversight that meant nothing when the people in power chose not to see. Search the bag, she said, because she had nothing to hide, and because she wanted them to go far enough that there'd be no doubt about who was wrong. Mitchell unzipped her carry-on with deliberate slowness, clothes, toiletries, a laptop, everything standard, everything legal. He checked every pocket anyway. Dawson watched with arms crossed, waiting for vindication that wouldn't come. Clean, Mitchell admitted. He sounded almost disappointed. Amara's phone buzzed again. Insistent now. Multiple calls. Marcus wouldn't stop until he found her. The board meeting had started. Questions were being asked. Where was the CEO? I'd like to make my flight, Amara said. You've searched me, questioned me, found nothing. Mitchell exchanged a glance with Dawson. Some decision passed between them. We're not comfortable letting you board today, Mitchell said. The words landed like a physical blow. Amara's breath caught. On what grounds? Security concerns. You just searched everything. There are no concerns. Internal concerns. Mitchell's face was stone. We're within our rights to deny boarding to any passenger we deem a risk. A risk. Amara stood slowly. I'm a risk because I asked questions? Because I wanted to know why I was stopped? You're a risk because you're combative, Dawson interjected. Uncooperative. I answered every question. Let you search my belongings. Sat here calmly while bleeding from a head wound you caused. Her voice remained steady, but fury burned beneath. What part of that is combative? Neither man answered. They didn't have to. Their silence was the answer. Amara reached for her phone, finally. No more waiting, Dawson moved fast. His hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. I don't think so. You have no right. I have every right. He twisted her arm. Pain shot up to her shoulder. Mitchell stepped back, creating distance, plausible deniability. He'd write the report later, describe her as aggressive, himself as merely present, Dawson as responding appropriately to a threat. Amara tried to pull free. Dawson yanked harder. The security office was small, crowded. When he shoved her backward, there was nowhere to go. She stumbled into the desk. The edge caught her hip. Dawson's grip never loosened. He dragged her toward the door, back into the terminal. Stop. Amara's voice rose for the first time. You're assaulting me. Passengers turned. Phones lifted. The same scene as before, but worse now. Escalated, violent. Her emerald blazer tore completely at the shoulder, hanging useless. She tried to plant her feet, but Dawson was stronger, momentum on his side. They entered the terminal proper. Bright lights, morning crowds. Families and business travelers and college students all frozen, watching. A woman gasped. A child asked, Mommy, why are they hurting her? Amara's heel caught on tile. She pitched forward. Dawson didn't stop. Her head struck a support column with a sound like a door slamming. Pain exploded, white and sharp. Her vision blurred. She hit the ground. Tile cold against her cheek. The torn blazer spread around her like broken wings. Blood traced from her temple down her jaw, dripping onto pristine white floor. Her phone fell from her pocket. The screen cracked in a spiderweb pattern, but through the damage one message glowed. CEO Bennett, the board meeting started 30 minutes ago. Where are you? Marcus, the message caught the light, bright enough that nearby passengers could see it. Some squinted, reading, confusion crossing their faces. Dawson stood over her, breathing hard, satisfied with his work. Amara's vision darkened at the edges. The terminal sounds faded. Her last thought before unconsciousness, Mother, I'm sorry. I tried. The phone screen flickered once more. Another message appeared. CEO Bennett, we're sending security to find you. Airport has been notified. Legal department. Then everything went black. Above them, cameras recorded. Algorithms flagged. Alerts cascaded through systems Dawson didn't know existed. The evidence was already spreading. He just didn't know it yet. Amara woke in a holding cell. Concrete walls, metal bench, a single fluorescent light that hummed the same angry note as the terminal above. Her head throbbed. Her blazer was gone, replaced with nothing. She sat in her blouse, torn and blood-stained, the ivory fabric now rust-colored at the collar. Her briefcase, her phone, her ID, all gone. The world had stripped her of everything except her name, and no one here cared about that. She touched her temple. The blood had dried, pulling her skin tight. No one had offered medical attention. No one had checked if she had a concussion. She'd simply been deposited here like luggage, forgotten. Through the bars she could hear the terminal. Announcements, footsteps, the rolling thunder of suitcases. Life continued while she sat in a cage. Amara closed her eyes, breathed. Her mother's voice whispered through the pain. Dignity is yours. They can't take it unless you give it, but what did dignity look like from behind bars? She thought about the passengers who'd filmed her, the ones who'd walked past. The child who'd asked the question no one answered. All of them witnesses to her erasure, 15 years of building. Policies written, training implemented, systems designed. And here she sat, another black woman removed from a space she wasn't supposed to occupy. The irony tasted like blood. She owned this terminal. These bars, the uniforms of every officer who'd touched her. But ownership meant nothing when people chose not to see you. For the first time since her mother died, Amara felt truly alone. Then she heard footsteps, soft, deliberate, not the heavy boots of security. A man appeared beyond the bars, older, dark skin, wearing a janitor's uniform. He looked left, then right, then slipped something through the bars. A phone. Not hers, his. "I know who you are, Miss Bennett," he whispered. "Call your people." He disappeared before she could thank him. Amara stared at the phone. Her hands shook as she picked it up. The screen was cracked but functional. She'd been invisible. But not to everyone. Some people still saw Amara dialed Marcus. He answered on the first ring. "Miss Bennett? Where are you?" "I'm in a holding cell at Terminal C." Her voice was steady. "I need you to listen carefully, Lance." Then Marcus's professional calm shattered. "You're what?" "Airport security stopped me. Assaulted me. I'm detained unlawfully." She spoke quickly, knowing time was limited. "Pull all security footage from Terminal C, check-in counter 7 and the security office. Flag everything in the last 2 hours. Get legal on this immediately." "Already on it." She could hear him typing. "The algorithm flagged an incident 30 minutes ago. We've been trying to locate you." The algorithm. The one she'd designed for exactly this scenario. It had worked. The system she'd built was trying to save her. Contact the airport director. Tell them Skybridge's CEO is illegally detained. I want every executive from our legal team here within the hour. "Done. Miss Bennett, are you hurt?" She touched her temple. "I'll survive. Marcus, I need you to do one more thing. Anything. Pull Officer Dawson's employment file. I want to know his history. Every complaint. Every incident, everything. Already pulling it, Miss Bennett?" Marcus paused. "The board is furious. Not at you, at what happened. They're mobilizing." Amara closed her eyes. Relief and fury warred inside her. "Good. Tell them I'll be at the emergency meeting as soon as I'm released." She ended the call. Handed the phone back through the bars. The janitor had reappeared, silent as smoke. "Thank you," Amara said. "What's your name?" "Jerome Williams, ma'am. I've worked here 15 years. Watched you build this airline from 3 planes." He smiled sadly. "Your mother used to work the night shift with me. She talked about you all the time." Amara's throat tightened. "You knew her." "Everyone knew Miss Dorothy. Kindest woman I ever met." Jerome pocketed his phone. "She'd be proud of you, ma'am. Not for building an empire. For still fighting when it would be easier to disappear." He walked away, pushing his cleaning cart. invisible again to everyone except the woman behind bars who would never forget him. Amara stood, straightened her torn blouse, ran fingers through her hair. They tried to erase her. But erasure only worked if you accepted it. She'd built an airline on the principle that everyone deserved dignity. Now she'd prove it by demanding her own. Above her, through the ceiling, she could hear the terminal's rhythm. Boarding announcements, flight departures. The machinery of travel she'd helped create. Dawson was up there somewhere. Mitchell, too. Both believing they'd won. Both believing the incident was over. Contained, forgotten. They didn't know the storm that was coming. Amara smiled. It wasn't kind. It was certain. Her mother had taught her patience. The world had taught her strategy. Experience had taught her that sometimes the system failed, but she'd also learned that when you controlled the system, you could remake it. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Multiple sets, fast, purposeful. Her rescue was arriving, but more importantly, her reckoning was about to begin. The holding area doors burst open. Airport Director Chen entered first, face pale. Behind him came Skybridge's Chief Operating Officer, Karen Martinez, flanked by 3 lawyers in sharp suits. Marcus followed, carrying a laptop and folders thick with documents. Dawson stood near the entrance, confusion replacing his earlier confidence. Mitchell hovered behind him, recognition beginning to dawn. "Open it," Director Chen snapped at the guard. Now the cell door swung wide. Amara stepped out, head high despite her torn blouse and dried blood. Karen moved immediately to her side, handing her a blazer, royal blue with silver wings on the lapel. "Miss Bennett, I'm so sorry," Director Chen began. "Conference room," Amara interrupted. Her voice was ice. Everyone now. They moved to the administrative conference room. Amara sat at the head of the table. Karen beside her. Lawyers fanned out. Marcus opened the laptop. Dawson and Mitchell were directed to stand at the opposite end. No chairs offered. No courtesy extended. "Do you know who I am?" Amara asked quietly. Dawson's jaw tightened. "Look, if you're someone important, answer the question." "I don't know you," he admitted. "I'm Amara Bennett, CEO and founder of Skybridge Airlines." She let the word settle. "The airline whose terminal you work in, whose security protocols you're contracted to enforce, whose passengers you're hired to protect." Mitchell's face drained of color. Dawson's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "That's impossible," Dawson stammered. I looked like what?" Amara's voice could cut glass. "Say it." Silence. "Marcus, show them," Amara said. The laptop screen came alive on the wall monitor. Security footage. Timestamp 6:47 a.m. Amara approaching the check-in counter. The agent scanning her ID, Dawson intervening. Every moment captured in high definition. "Watch," Amara commanded. They watched Dawson grab her arm. Watched him ignore her protests. Watched other passengers, white passengers, move through security without interruption. The comparison was damning. The footage cut to the security office. Dawson pocketing her ID. Mitchell's hollow questions. The manual with Amara's signature 6 inches away untouched. Then the terminal. The assault. Her head striking the column. The blood. The cracked phone screen showing messages addressed to CEO Bennett. The room was silent, except for the video's audio. A child's voice, "Mommy, why are they hurting her?" The footage ended. No one moved. "Page 1 of the security protocol manual," Amara said. "The one sitting on your desk, Officer Dawson." "Do you remember what it says?" He didn't answer. Karen pulled out a copy, opened it, read aloud. "Racial profiling is prohibited. Any security decision must be based on observable behavior, not appearance, ethnicity, or assumptions." She looked up. "This manual was distributed 6 months ago. Every security contractor signed acknowledgement of receipt and training." Marcus slid a document across the table. Officer Dawson's signature. Dated February 15th. Dawson stared at his own name like it belonged to someone else. "You stopped me because of how I looked," Amara said. Not what I did. You assaulted me because I asked questions. You detained me because I refused to accept being treated as less than human. She leaned forward. Tell me I'm wrong. I thought... Dawson's voice broke. I was just doing my job. Your job was to protect passengers, to follow protocol, to treat everyone with dignity regardless of who they were or what they looked like. Amara's hand touched her temple. Instead, you profiled me, assaulted me, and tried to erase me from a space I built. Director Chen found his voice. Officer Dawson, Supervisor Mitchell, you're both terminated effective immediately. We'll be pursuing criminal charges for assault and unlawful detention. We have 68 similar complaints against Officer Dawson, one of the lawyers added, dating back 3 years, all dismissed internally, all involving passengers of color. Mitchell's face crumbled. I didn't know... You didn't want to know, Amara cut him off, because knowing meant acting. Acting meant disrupting a system that worked perfectly well for you. She stood. Everyone else stood reflexively. Even Dawson. Skybridge Airlines will be terminating its contract with this security firm, Amara announced. We'll be implementing civilian oversight for all security interactions. Every complaint will be reviewed by an independent board, and every officer will undergo monthly anti-bias training with real consequences for violations. Ms. Bennett, Director Chen started. I built this airline so moments like this wouldn't happen, Amara continued. I wrote policies, implemented training, created systems, and still a man looked at me and saw only what he wanted to see. Her voice didn't rise, but everyone heard the fury beneath. So we're going to do better. Not just here. Everywhere Skybridge operates. Because my mother cleaned these floors believing the world would change. So I'm going to make sure it does. Marcus began distributing packets, new security protocols, effective tomorrow, non-negotiable. Amara looked at Dawson one final time. You didn't just assault a passenger today. You assaulted the person trying to protect you from your own biases. Remember that. She walked to the door, paused, turned back. And Officer Dawson, you're right that I don't belong here. She smiled without warmth. I belong everywhere. Remember that too. The door closed behind her, leaving silence and reckoning in her wake. 2 weeks later, Amara stood in Terminal C again. Same floor, same lights, different world. The security checkpoints had new signage, dignity for every traveler. Officers wore body cameras. Civilian oversight monitors walked the terminals, clipboards ready. Every passenger interaction was logged, reviewed, and rated. Jerome Williams stood beside her, no longer wearing a janitor's uniform. He wore a royal blue blazer with silver wings, the new passenger advocacy liaison. His office overlooked the very terminal he'd cleaned for 15 years. How does it feel? Amara asked. Like your mother's watching and smiling, Jerome said quietly. Amara had addressed every airport employee personally. Not from a stage, not from behind a podium. She'd stood on the terminal floor where she'd bled and told them what happened. Some cried, some apologized, some promised to do better. The ones who didn't were no longer employed. Dawson's case was proceeding through criminal courts. Mitchell had resigned. The security firm had lost contracts across 5 airports. Skybridge's new protocols became industry standard within days, adopted by competing airlines who recognized the liability of inaction. Marcus approached with a tablet. Ms. Bennett, passenger satisfaction is up 18%. Employee complaints about security interactions down 62%. The board wants you to present the new protocols at the industry conference next month. I'll be there, Amara said. But first I'm taking a flight. Where to? Atlanta, economy, middle seat, she smiled. I want to experience what our passengers experience. This time she wore her ID badge, not to demand special treatment, to remind herself that power meant nothing if it wasn't used to protect those without it. She passed through security smoothly. The officer smiled genuinely, checked her bag professionally, treated her like a human being. It was the bare minimum. It shouldn't feel revolutionary, but it did. On the plane, Amara sat between a college student and a businessman. Neither recognized her. They just saw another passenger. She helped the student with her overhead bag, shared armrest space with the businessman. When the flight attendant came by, Amara ordered coffee and said thank you. Ordinary moments, dignified interactions, the world her mother had dreamed of. As the plane lifted off, Amara looked out at the terminal shrinking below. She thought about Jerome in his new office, about policies being implemented across the industry, about passengers who would fly today without fear of being erased. One moment couldn't change everything, but it had changed something. Her mother's voice whispered through the engine hum, "You didn't just build an airline, baby." "You built proof." Amara closed her eyes. For the first time in 2 weeks, she let herself rest. The fight wasn't over. It never would be. But today she'd won. 3 months later, Amara returned to Terminal C for the dedication ceremony. A memorial plaque now hung near check-in counter 7. It didn't mention her name. It mentioned her mother's Dorothy Bennett, custodian, dreamer, believer in better tomorrows below it, a quote Amara had chosen carefully. True dignity is not given. It's recognized in others and demanded for ourselves. Passengers passed the plaque constantly. Some stopped to read it. Most didn't. That was okay. It wasn't about being seen. It was about remembering what was built and why. Jerome stood beside Amara, his passenger advocacy office now handling 50 cases a week. Real cases. Real resolutions. The system she'd created was working, not perfectly. Nothing human ever worked perfectly, but better. "Your mother would be proud," Jerome said again. "She'd say the work isn't finished," Amara replied. She'd be right. A young black woman approached the check-in counter. She hesitated, adjusting her bag, uncertainty in her posture. The security officer, new, trained under the revised protocols, smiled warmly and waved her forward. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" The woman relaxed, stepped forward, became just another traveler moving through a space designed to welcome her. Amara watched the interaction. Such a small moment. Such a massive difference. She'd built an airline to prove her mother's belief that the world could change. That dignity could become standard. That erasure could be replaced with recognition. One woman's assault had sparked industry-wide reform. But the real revolution was quieter. It was in the smile of an officer who saw passengers as humans, in the hesitation that never happened because a young woman didn't fear being profiled, in the ordinary respect that should never have been extraordinary. Amara touched the plaque. Her mother's name under her fingertips. "I'm still fighting," she whispered. "Every day, every policy, every person we protect." The terminal hummed around her. Planes departing, families reuniting, strangers becoming temporary communities in shared spaces. She'd been dragged across this floor, bleeding and erased, by a man who saw only what he chose to see. Now she stood here, no longer invisible, having transformed her pain into protection for millions of travelers who would never know her name. That was legacy. Not the airline, not the billions, not even the policies. The legacy was in the young woman, checking in without fear, in the officer who chose to see humanity instead of assumptions. In the quiet moment when dignity became default, Amara walked toward her gate, boarding pass in hand, just another passenger in her own terminal. She could have taken a private car, a reserved lounge, all the privileges of power. Instead, she stood in line like everyone else, because the fight for dignity meant nothing if you didn't live it yourself. Her mother had cleaned floors believing in better tomorrows. Amara had built them, and the work, as always, continued. They will test you in every space you enter. Your dignity is yours. They cannot take it unless you give it. And when you have power, remember, dignity isn't something you claim. It's something you protect in everyone who comes after you. Dorothy Bennett. The terminal lights glowed. The planes ascended. The world kept turning, and somewhere in it all a mother's dream lived on.